standing here today in historic Linwood Cemetery in Columbus, Georgia. There are a number of Confederate soldiers buried here who fought in the Civil War. In fact, there is at least one from every state of the Confederacy that can be found here scattered throughout the cemetery at some place or another. These are the people who wrote the letters that James McPherson featured in his book, Recalls and Comrades, which is an excellent bit of scholarship that successfully sifts through thousands of these letters from Civil War soldiers such as those buried here, on both the Confederate and the Union side, though, in an effort to glean some kind of motivation that would propel these soldiers along through what still hails as the bloodiest war in America's history. The motivations identified by McPherson are varied. Lincoln, according to McPherson, enumerated several motives that might induce a man to enlist: patriotism, political bias, that is, political or ideological conviction, ambition, personal courage, love of adventure, want of employment. This list is not an exhaustive one, and McPherson addresses those provided by President Lincoln while also supplementing with a few of his own. First off, he shows us what motivated everyday people, not just the regulars employed as professional soldiers, mind you, but farmers, lawyers, businessmen, shopkeepers, and politicians alike, to take up arms against their fellow Americans. What prompted them to do this in the first place? The answer to that question largely depends on the individual soldier. Confederate soldiers and Union soldiers had slightly different motivations, though there was some overlap between the two groups. The main difference being that Union soldiers fought to preserve the Union, while Confederate soldiers fought for home and hearth. Age, education level, and marital status also played a role in the soldiers' motivation. Married soldiers, for instance, got less and less, or were less and less willing to stay on as the war went on, because they missed their family, they missed their wife, their children. Those who volunteered to fight, however, did so overwhelmingly due to a sense of duty. Once engaged in battle, there were different motivations that kept them in the fight, so not the same as when they first started. Some of these motivations were the same as those that prompted them to fight in the first place, but the one that cropped up the most in the letters that they sent home to their families was one of personal courage, or probably more accurately, the desire to avoid being named a coward. Numerous soldiers wrote home deriding those they identified as cowards, those who feigned sickness or injury in order to get discharged, those who stayed home instead of fighting in the first place, politicians who belied the war effort, copperheads or peace Democrats, and skulkers, sneaks, beats, stragglers, coffee coolers, or those who had found ways to avoid fighting when bullets began coming too close. It is sometimes difficult to discern the soldier's motivations from his letter simply due to the fact that in nearly every case, he is writing to his family, and as such, wants to present himself in the best possible light. He is likely not to mention any unfavorable motives in this regard. The motives of black soldiers may overlap some with white soldiers. However, they were not afforded the same opportunities as the white soldiers. For example, bounty pay. Though they did get paid and were honored with medals of valor, just not equally on both accounts. The main reason for blacks fighting would likely be to bring an end to slavery, which is also a sentiment supported in a number of the letters from white Union troops. I found this one account in McPherson's book from a Union lieutenant, quite humorous, as he told the tale of a Confederate coming into the Union camp seeking to claim his lost slave. He would have lost his life in this Negro hunt. As it was, he got well frightened, and I presume he will think twice before he goes into a camp of Northern soldiers to reclaim biped property. And then the other work that we were consulting, Joshua K. Calloway of the 28th Alabama Volunteers, originally the 27th, begins his bi-weekly correspondence, or he tried bi-weekly anyway, with his wife Dulcinea, in much the same vein as the soldiers quoted by McPherson, full of excitement and anticipation as he awaited his first battle, ready for the fray. His first battle was in Corinth, Mississippi. Coincidentally, Mr. Calloway also gets sick before his first engagement, but chooses to fight on anyway so as not to be labeled a coward, which is a trait that McPherson identified in a number of the letters he reviewed. Unlike any of those letters, though, Calloway's writings remain surprisingly upbeat through until his last, before he fell on Missionary Ridge. Thank you.